Number 10. Tom Hardy is signed for 3 films. He confirmed that they did plan to do sequels. We knew that they would try to do at least one sequel, but trilogy is a much bigger thing, and they've already set up what their sequel is going to be, so I'll explain that. It's also on my list here, but the movie will set up its own sequel, so definitely be sure to stay through the credits. 9, he's not signed up for any of the Spider-Verse spin-off films that they're developing, so that includes Morbius, The Living Vampire, the Black Cat movie, Silver Sable, the Kraven the Hunter movie, Spider-Man Silk, the Jackpot movie, and the Night Watch movie. There are a lot of Sony Spider-Verse movies that they have planned. Pretty safe to say that not all those are eventually going to get made, some of them for sure, but Tom Hardy said that they're just waiting to see how Venom does and how the scripts turn out for these other films before signing him up for a billion other films. Because Venom is the big attraction, don't be surprised if some of these other characters pop up in the Venom sequels. Stealing a page out of Kevin Feige's Spider-Man playbook would do them a lot of good. 8, there are a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of characters from the Spider-Man comics, but this is supposed to be a standalone film. It's not connected to the MCU. At least that's the way that they shot it. I already did a big video after Comic-Con about the earlier comments. You may remember Tom Hardy's "Not My Daddy's Tractor."
At the end of the day, that's kind of above my pay grade, and also it's not my daddy's tractor.
Now, that being said, what they are confirming is that everybody's open to legit Tom Holland crossover, because Tom Holland has said he wants to cross over with Venom. In Venom, Tom Hardy has said that he wants to cross over with Tom Holland, but because so many lawyers are involved and it gets so complicated because of what Marvel is doing with MCU Spider-Man, it's just way too much for right now, but we do get into sequel talk with that, so I'll explain about Spider-Man and how he figures into these Venom sequels. 7, Michelle Williams, who's playing Anne Wang, who's Eddie Brock's girlfriend in the movie, ex-wife in the comics, was asked point blank if she's going to get the symbiote in the future because there was a She-Venom arc, like she was just called She-Venom. She got really excited and talked about how cool it would be to do something like that, which pretty much confirms that she's just a totally normal person in this first movie. So if they do go full-blown She-Venom in a sequel, it would probably be just like they did it in the comics, a very temporary situation whereby she got shot by the Sin Eater, was bleeding out, the Venom symbiote bonded with her to save her life. Then once there was no more danger to her life, the Venom symbiote left. It's kind of like Pepper Potts in her Rescue Dawn armor. Not something that she flies around in all the time, but every once in a while, like Iron Man 3, she gets to briefly wear the costume. We actually do have Pepper Potts Rescue Dawn stuff happening in Avengers 4, but we haven't actually seen footage of that yet. Just her in a motion capture outfit. Like, oh yeah, you are definitely wearing some armor here. We can talk more about that in a Marvel MCU Avengers video. Speaking of motion capture though, 6, the symbiote in the movie is not motion capture. Tom Hardy was literally walking around with his street clothes on, and they just artfully placed the Venom symbiote in post-production on top of him. Even though that sounds like motion capture, when he says they didn't do mocap, he's mostly talking about his facial expressions, because he said that Venom's face and the eyes don't move like a natural human's. Like, humans don't unhinge their jaws to bite people's heads off, so it just didn't make sense for them to shoot it the same way they shoot Mark Ruffalo's Hulk scenes or Tom Holland's Avengers Infinity War Iron Spider scenes, because that's all mocap, like full CG Spider-Man in all these big fight scenes. 5, this is actually kind of funny. He said that his Eddie Brock performance and his Venom performances, especially the Venom voice, were inspired by a couple different things. 1, Woody Allen's neuroses. So that's like when he's walking down the street talking to himself, but he's really talking to the Venom symbiote, looking like a total crazy person. That's him going full-blown Woody Allen. Then this is even better. The Venom influences for the Venom voice and the physicality, the way Venom moves, were Redman, Busta Rhymes, and James Brown. He said he went to them mostly for the way that they move and the way they talk, just because the Venom character needs to be larger than life and move in such a much more expressive way than someone like Eddie Brock moves. Number 4, main villain Carlton Drake's whole thing is that he's like an evil Tony Stark or a more insidious version of Norman Osborn, a scientist trying to save all the world's problems as he sees them without any real sense of morality. So he sees the world crumbling around him. He has that speech in the trailer about everything falling apart. He wants to forcibly evolve the human race when the symbiotes mysteriously fall into his lap, crash landing to Earth in that spacecraft. So I know everybody that saw that Ryan Reynolds movie Life about the astronauts that find that alien parasite that then kills them all and crash lands their spaceship down to Earth thinks that's a Venom prequel. It's not supposed to be, but funny enough, that's basically the story of how the symbiotes in the Venom movie make it to planet Earth. they fully hijack the situation to crash land the spacecraft to planet Earth because they're part of the Clintar. Their whole thing is spread and destroy, take over. Think of it as like the aliens in the Alien movies, where their whole life mission is just to propagate. Like, it's not like they're going to start writing poetry or gardening or anything like that. They find hosts, they propagate, they find more hosts for those new symbiotes, so on, so forth, as they slowly spread out across the universe. So Earth is just the latest destination in the Clintar's galactic conquest. 3, Riot, the main evil symbiote, is the ringleader. He's going to be the main villain, the big bad, when he binds with Carlton Drake during the film. But the symbiotes have their own internal power dynamic. Venom is supposed to be the runt of the litter, as Tom Hardy talks about him, the underdog who doesn't want to have anything to do with the other symbiotes, not because he, as part of the Clintar race, wants to save planet Earth. It's just that he doesn't want to be a lackey or a whipping boy to the other symbiotes anymore. So he hates the shit out of the Riot symbiote, while Tom Hardy is trying to stop Carlton Drake's character. And the easiest way to accomplish their goals is to kill both of those people. Kill the Riot symbiote, kill Carlton Drake. So you've already seen a lot of those scenes in the trailer where they're going at each other, just ripping each other apart. Number 2, of course, the interviewer was asking them all about Carnage. The director said, this is actually kind of funny, the fans should be excited, quote unquote, to go see the film to see if he's in it, which basically confirms that he's in it. Because if you were a director trying to hype up a film, you wouldn't say that, oh, Carnage, you like him? Well, you'll be excited to go see if he's in the movie, wink, wink, if you knew that people would be disappointed if he wasn't in the movie. So just a reminder that Carnage is not a main character during this film. He's basically setting up the sequel. So just a small tag like, oh wow, he exists, meaning that's what our second film is going to be. So number 1, the sequels. Venom versus Carnage, pretty easy pitch. Carnage is crazy, way crazier than the Riot symbiote. It'd be like going from lawful evil, say like Thanos, to chaotic evil, Norman Osborn, full-blown crazy Green Goblin. Meaning that number 3, the third film in the trilogy, will probably be their Maximum Carnage big crossover epic event. Because Maximum Carnage, just the most notable Carnage story, you would probably save that for your closer. So that would involve some sort of crossover with other characters from the Sony Spider-Verse, and maybe their opportunity for a Peter Parker Spider-Man inclusion. Because think about it this way, bet 6 years before that third film would happen, by that time we'll have our third MCU Spider-Man film and our 5th Avengers film, meaning that Marvel would have had this really big long run of awesome Spider-Man Tom Holland films. So I think if everything works out with the Venom franchise, then the Sony and Marvel people will be much more open to letting Tom Holland cross over with Venom. But remember, that third film wouldn't happen for another 6 years. So that's way down the road. Anything can change between now and then. But that's when I would expect to see Spider-Man crossover. Everyone just pray that they re-sign that sharing arrangement with Marvel and Kevin Feige so everything works out down the road. But there is a new